Hello, welcome back to our cricket podcast where England have won the first test against the West Indies at Lord's by 114 runs. My name is Dan. I'm joined by professional cricketer Joe Gardner. Joe, that's a bit emotional, isn't it? Jimmy's finished. He's done. That's it. The last dance.
What a player. What an innings.
What a player.
Or not an innings, because he didn't face the ball in his last test. That was a bit emotional as well. And I really wanted him to get that last wicket. I really did. Just for the same fairy tale ending like Stuart Broad had at the Oval last year. That would have been quite something. But yeah, 704 test wickets. I don't think he can grumble at that. But emotional indeed at Lord's, yeah.
I don't really think we realise yet how big of a void that's going to leave. I know obviously Stuart Broad hung his boots up at the end of last summer, but we still had Jimmy. Everybody thought it was going to be Jimmy last year, and everybody had things prepared for James Anderson's retirement, and Broad was going to carry on. But now we're without both of them. As you said, it's 21 years, 188 test matches, 704 test wickets, and I think, but I'm not sure, 40,037 legal deliveries in test cricket. And I just don't think we're ever going to see anybody like that ever again. And what an unbelievable privilege it's been as a fan to be able to sit and watch so much of that 21-year career.
Yeah, 100%. As an English fan as well, when you look at the other stats in terms of record breakers in Test match cricket, generally of other nations, so the fact that we've been able to enjoy it as fans of the England cricket team just makes that extra bit special. And I don't think there'll ever be another one that plays the game like he does, or break those records of any nation in Test match cricket. That is absolutely for sure. What an outstanding career he had.
It's going to be one of those kind of names, isn't it? That's going to forever be synonymous with cricket. And I can't believe, and I don't know this factually, but there can't be many people, if any, that are left on this planet that have watched Sir Don Bradman play cricket. But we still speak about Don Bradman as being like the greatest batter, or one of the greatest batters ever to play the game. Obviously, that test match batting average, what was it, 99.96, 97, I think? Can't remember exactly. But Anderson's going to have that same weight behind his name in 100 years' time, when none of us that have enjoyed his career are left on this planet to verify just how good he is. Well, assuming Test cricket still played in 100 years' time anyway. But he's going to have that kind of legacy, and that's incredible. And he's from Burnley as well. Who'd have thought anybody from Burnley would have that kind of legacy?
Yeah, what a rep. He's waving that flag just by himself, isn't he?
Big time Burnley on the map. Does he here's something I've been thinking about, though, Joe, over the last 2 and a bit days. Does he actually have to retire? Because I've got a little bit of right, because there's reasoning for my questioning right now. When McCullum and Stokes took over, they wanted to win test matches now. And all of us were so fed up of England going, but the thing is, we go to Australia in 7 years' time, and we need to figure out what our bowling lineup's going to be then for us to go and win the Ashes. And that's fine, but actually we were a bit sick of not winning test matches at the moment. And they kind of changed that. But lately they've kind of gone, well, part of the reason as to why Jimmy's got to go is because we've got this Ashes series coming up in 18 months' time. And it's like, oh, good, we're back on this story again. Fantastic. But Woakes has come back into the team. Woakes is 35 and a half years old. He's going to be 37 in 18 months' time. He does not travel well. Now, surely Chris Woakes isn't going to be part of that Ashes side in 18 months' time to go to Australia, because we know what he's like with a Kookaburra. We know what he's like in Australia. And surely Jimmy's a better option with a Dukes in his hand over the next 5 test matches in England, isn't he?
When you say it like that, and judging on how this game at Lord's just went, I think the easy thing to say would be Jimmy is 100% the better option, right? He's like, even seeing this test match, we obviously saw how he prepared himself and got his body ready for those 5 tests in India earlier in the year, and he's in similar shape now. Like, things haven't changed. He's in, fine touch, you would say, still. And obviously, seeing him bowl at Lords is just bags the same threat that he always has, and more so than Wokes in particular. In his kind of first test in a while. On the face of it, you'd say Jimmy's still the better option on this day. What, the 12th of July? In 18 months' time, you'd still probably say that Jimmy would offer more of a threat and potentially take more wickets than Wokes down under. But especially with Wokes' age as well, like he's not a young buck anymore. Not in comparison to some of the other youngsters in the squad, like we've obviously seen Gus Atkinson. Be rude not to mention him, but yeah, of course. I think if you put a poll out and asked Wokes or Anderson in 18 months' time, I would be shocked if that wasn't at least 80% Anderson.
Yeah, I know where my vote would be going. But look, at the end of the day, James Anderson will not stumble across this podcast. But I think from a fan's perspective, just like such an incredible thank you really for everything that I think you've given us as armchair experts and professional cricketers as well. Just an absolute inspiration and such a joy and a privilege to have been able to watch and enjoy that career. So yeah, what a cricketer. And I mean, who comes next? Is it going to be Gus Atkinson? 12 wickets on debut at Lords, 7 for in the first innings, 5 in the second. What's your thoughts about Gus Atkinson's, Joe?
Yeah, first player to take 10 wickets in a home test match since 1946, I believe the stat was reeling out. That's not a bad start, is it? He's got that threat of packing an extra bit of pace, as we've seen with sort of Wood and Archer and players like that in the test team over the past few years, and obviously the accuracy to boot as well, and seams it around a bit. So yeah, I think he couldn't have done much more in his first test, quite frankly. Maybe lasting more than one ball with the bat might have helped his cause, but if anyone needed mother cricket, an example of mother cricket, then that'd probably be it. But yeah, no, he was pretty impressive. Taking 7 wickets in an innings doesn't happen very often, and he almost surpassed Jimmy's best figures in Jimmy's career. So, I mean, yeah, that's some marker to put down. But we've seen, with these bowlers that have come in to the Test match team in recent times on debut, there has been quite a few of them that have taken 5-wicket hauls in their first game. Obviously, I think Bashir and Hartley both did that, didn't they? I know they're spinners, but yeah. I'm pretty sure Matty Potts might have done that as well in his first test at Lords a couple of years ago, whenever that was. But yeah, exciting times, but it's too soon to predict anything of his future England career, but an exciting talent nonetheless.
Yeah, I really well summed up. As you said, way too early to start thinking about what that might lead to. But as you said, he bowled with good pace. It was about 87 miles an hour, I think, roughly throughout on the speed gun, and picked up some good wickets as well. So hopefully, as we said in the last episode, nobody's going to be able to fill those boots. But actually, let's not get too carried away with Gus Atkinson. But it's a great start. And let's see what happens over the rest of the summer. I mean, he's going to have a very good opportunity over the next 5 tests if he stays fit to finish with some serious figures against, respectfully, 2 of the lesser oppositions in Test cricket at the moment. Jamie Smith was the other man on debut. He only got to bat once. Obviously, he's not just a one-trick pony. 70 off 119 balls, batting in the middle order, then with the tail as well, and kept pretty well, I thought, throughout the entirety of that test match for the 2 days and half a session that we had. But yeah, I mean, kind of, he's been around. He's 23, and it feels like he's been around for ages. He's played so much cricket for Surrey. Kind of isn't that big of a shock, I don't think, that he's gone out there and done that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I think, obviously, plies his trade south of the river. He's come north of the river in his first test match and just shown everyone what he's been doing on more of a global stage, I guess, with it being a test match at Lords. But yeah, of course, he looks so composed at the crease as well, and just like he had this just sheer belief in his ability that this is where he belongs. He's gone out and done it. Hit a ball out of Lords in his first Test match.
Have you ever seen that before?
Unbelievable.
I don't think I've ever seen one go out of Lords before.
No, I was when I saw the highlights, and just like incredible the trajectory that he has to get on that ball to hit it out of Lords. Because Lords isn't the shortest in stature in terms of stadium height. It's definitely up there. I don't know if there might have been a ball in the 100 or something last year that someone might have hit. Yeah, it's into the top tier. Maybe it was like Adam Rossington or something like that. But in a Test match on debut, I mean, fair play. Strikes the ball nicely, doesn't he? And that, I don't think that drive through mid off. Like, I feel like that's almost like trademark Jamie Smith from the innings that I've seen in the Championship and stuff. And I'm not surprised that he kind of shone as such on his Test debut.
Yeah, I thought the way he batted as well in that innings, kind of with the ability to take his time and be defensive and solid whilst he was batting with the middle order, I thought was really impressive. And then obviously that acceleration that we know that he's got, bearing in mind the success that he's had for Surrey in the Blast this year as well, was really impressive. I guess if you're Ben Folkes, you're sitting around, and I'm sure he's probably really happy for his Surrey teammate, but at the same time, he must be sitting there going, bloody hell, what do I have to do to actually get given a decent run in this side? Because you'd say that's pushed him back at least another summer if there's going to be chance or conversation for him to be involved again. And as well, Johnny Bairstow, is that the final nail in the coffin for Bairstow's Test career? It could be, I think. England's first innings score, though, 371 all out off 90 overs, run rate of 4s, which is really important for the Bazball era. Crawley got a 50, Pope got a 50, Root got a 50, Brooke got 50, Smith got 50. None of them went on to get a big score. Yes, okay, I would agree and argue the fact that the West Indies' strongest suit is their bowling, with Alzari Joseph, Jaden Seales, Shamar Joseph, and obviously that impressive spell from Gudakesh Moti as well. But 371 against anybody in the world, and particularly against better oppositions, is not going to win you Test matches. I know we've demolished the West Indies here, but it isn't, though. Like, if we were playing Australia, they're going to turn up and go, oh, cheers, 371. Well, you're about 130 short there, lads.
Yeah, I think obviously you've reeled off, five players that all passed 50 and didn't convert. So I think when you do think about the stronger opposition that are out there, and we spoke briefly about kind of England's position in the World Test Championship and pretty much being bottom of the table. So, like, the importance of being ruthless against those other nations is something that I'm sure that they'll be bearing in mind. And obviously they've dominated this Test match, there's no doubt about that whatsoever. But when they're looking of ways that they need to kind of step up and I guess really just ensure that they are in control when they get into positions where they find that they've got batters that are in, like the players themselves will be disappointed. There's no doubt about that. It's not as if they'll be thinking, oh yeah, got 50, got out, or whatever. It'll be, no, I should have gone on and got 100, 150, 200, whatever. And it's just a matter of ensuring that they're more ruthless when they find themselves in a similar position again and are able to convert. But I thought they were all shaping up really nicely. There's a bit like decent bits of bowling in there as well. At times, obviously that quicker ball that Moti bowled to Root was decent bit of bowling. Got bowled a good ball to Stokes as well. Obviously, didn't he, utilising the rough? And yeah, I mean, you probably look at like Brooks' dismissal. Wasn't really in control of the short ball. After I think peppering a few of them to the ropes before, and I think he's not scored a Test match century since that series where he got like 2 or 3, wasn't it, against New Zealand overseas. And yeah, I'm sure him in particular, I think that's 6 I think I heard 6 scores of 50 plus where he hasn't converted now. So I'm sure that'll be something that's almost in the back of his mind, no doubt.
Yeah, he's got a bit of the Root syndrome. Speaking of Joe Root, he's now in the top 10 test run scorers of all time. He's, 11,804, I think. And with years ahead of him, I think there's at least kind of second or third place in his sights, assuming he wants to play as long as what he wants to, or if he wants to. Ben Stokes as well, now the only third bloke to go past 6,000 test runs and 200 test wickets, with Jacques Gallis and Sir Garfield Sobers. So 2 amazing milestones that have kind of been dwarfed really by Jimmy's retirement. As we said, Jimmy's obviously done and dusted now. The boots are finished. I tell you what, those custom Adidas spikes, they look pretty smart, didn't they? With that extra little bit of embroidery on there with some dates and some numbers on there. But second test starts up in Nottingham in is it less than a week? Yeah, it's next week, isn't it? Thursday next week, I think. Who replaces Jimmy? Bashir didn't bowl at all. Potts, Pennington, one of those to replace James Anderson. Do England get rid of Shoaib Bashir as well?
I think for me it'd be Pennington that comes in for Jimmy, based on the fact that he is now a Notts player and has had quite a bit of success there in the championship this year. I think that kind of seems like the most logical and straightforward thing to do. I'm excited to see how he goes when he does get his opportunity, and hopefully that'll be next week up at Trent Bridge. Yeah, Bashir, obviously, I feel like do you keep him in? I feel like you probably do. I'm sure Matty Potts is there chomping at the bit to get out on the field and bowl a few overs though. So yeah, I guess interesting, but I think having Bashir in there just in case is probably important.
A bit of a 50-50, I think, between Pennington and Potts. I don't think there's a great deal to choose between them. Pennington might be a touch quicker than Potts. Potts has got test match wickets already. Whether that kind of adds any value to it or not, I don't know. The West Indies, bowling, I think, was as good as what we thought it was going to be. Jayden Seales with that prep over with Sussex at the start of the county championship, fantastic. Shamar Joseph looked pretty good. Alzari Joseph, again, you kind of know what you get from him. And Gudakesh Moti, I think, bowled better really than what anybody had seen before. We haven't really seen him play Test cricket before in the UK. The batting, on the other hand, was, well, for want of a better word, I'd probably describe it as woeful. I don't think there was really anything to get that excited about. Everybody was talking about Mikhail Louis at the top of the order, 27 off 58. Yeah, fine, looked pretty good for 30. But, I mean, how many times have we spoken about that with regards to people that own cricket bats before? You faced 58 balls there. It isn't really good enough. Yeah, okay, he looked organised. Alec Athanase, 23. Kavem Hodge, 24. It's just kind of like, meh, nothing really. Then yesterday evening, batted about an hour and a half and never really added anything to the score at all. I honestly, and I think this is kind of the final talking point really on this episode, I genuinely didn't think that West Indies batting unit was that much worse than the England team.
Yeah. Now there might be a little bit of gap in your analysis there, having watched what we've watched over the past couple of days. Yeah, they just looked a bit... No, don't get me wrong, England bowled pretty nicely. We know how skillful... Well, we now know how skillful Gus Atkinson is, and we've always known how skillful Jimmy Anderson is, and I thought Ben Stokes was... He was bowling quite nicely, considering, obviously, yeah, he's not bowled a huge amount. It's obviously good to see him back in amongst and hitting that milestone. Yeah, there wasn't a huge amount to get excited about from a West Indies batting perspective, was there? I'd like to see that improve, shall we say, up at Trent Bridge. In the same way that it felt like they looked a bit lost when they were bowling in terms of ideas, and just it didn't feel like they were ever building any pressure on England in the batting innings. Always felt like that there'd be spells where they'd build up dots, but then there'd always be that release of a 4-ball that the England batters could get on top of or whatever, and that would just release everything. And I think, yeah, when they're batting, I don't know, it didn't feel like they were ever going to transfer pressure onto the England bowlers to think about doing something different. So, yeah, I think from an England won't be worried, will they? I don't think, which is a bit of a shame. So you'd feel like you'd like to see them give England some questions to think about next week, hopefully. Yeah, their first test in a while, I guess, as well. Bit of rustiness against England in home conditions. Probably always going to be a bit tricky.
Yeah, well, as we spoke to Josh De Silva, the West Indies love a bounce back, don't they? And they particularly love it when there's a few headlines going around that are kind of saying that the West Indies aren't particularly good. So maybe a few of those get dished out over the course of the week and we see a West Indies bounce back at Trent Bridge. Because I do think, well, I don't think these two teams are that far apart in all honesty. I really don't think they're wildly apart. Yes, I know it's at home in England, which provides England with a massive advantage, but that seam bowling attack that the West Indies have got, they should be very good in these conditions. And we spoke about that first innings score of 371. It isn't the score that's going to bat another team out of a game. So let's hope for a better West Indies. But yeah, England are 1-0 up. James Anderson, end of a fantastic career. Thank you so much for having a listen, having a watch, whichever you've consumed this podcast on. And if you have enjoyed it and you want to support any more, there is a link to the Patreon in the description of the video, and there's various different tiers you can get involved with. But yeah, thanks very much. And next episode, I'll be chatting to Jimmy O'Brien about cricket in the United States.